The message came through the quantum relay at exactly 14:30 Earth Standard Time. Admiral Lisa Grant stood in the command center of Earth Defense Headquarters, watching the holographic display flicker to life. The alien face that appeared made her stomach turn. It looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird, with scales that shifted color and eyes that seemed to look right through her. "Greetings, primitive humans," the alien said. Its voice was cold and mechanical through the translation system. "I am Ambassador Kextal of the Zephyrian Empire, speaking for the Galactic Council. We have observed your species for some time now." Lisa felt her hands clench into fists. Around her, the other officers and staff members had gone completely silent. Everyone knew this moment would come eventually. Ever since humanity had developed faster-than-light travel 5 years ago, they had been waiting for contact with other intelligent life. "Your species has reached a level of technology that requires our attention," Kextal continued. "However, your advancement is crude and dangerous. You wage wars among yourselves. You pollute your world. You show no respect for the natural order that governs civilized species." The ambassador paused, and its scales shifted to a darker color. "Therefore, the Galactic Council has made a decision. Earth will surrender its independence and submit to Council authority. You will disarm your military forces and accept our guidance. You have 72 hours to comply." Lisa's aide, Colonel Pete Barnes, stepped forward. "And if we refuse?" he asked. Kextal's expression didn't change, but something like amusement flickered in its eyes. "Then your species will be eliminated. We have done this 17 times before with other primitive races who refuse to see reason. Your choice is simple: surrender or die." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Lisa stared at the empty holographic display for a long moment. 17 other species, all wiped out because they wouldn't surrender their freedom. "Ma'am?" Colonel Barnes said quietly. "Orders?" Lisa turned to face her staff. These were good people, the best Earth had to offer. They had families, dreams, hopes for the future. In 72 hours, all of that might be gone. "Get me Captain Morrison," she said. "Emergency priority." 20 minutes later, Captain Jake Morrison appeared on the main screen. He was aboard the UES Liberty, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. The ship was currently on patrol near Mars, conducting final tests of its new weapon systems. Jake looked tired. At 35, he was young for a ship captain, but he had earned his position through skill and dedication. His brown hair was starting to show gray at the temples, and his blue eyes held the steady gaze of someone who had seen combat before. "Admiral," he said, "I received the emergency alert. What's the situation?" Lisa quickly explained the alien ultimatum. As she spoke, she watched Jake's expression grow more serious. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "How many ships do they have?" he asked. "Long-range sensors detected 12 vessels entering the outer solar system an hour ago," Colonel Barnes answered. "Each one is approximately 2 kilometers long. They're positioning themselves near Jupiter." Jake let out a low whistle. 12 ships that size could turn Earth into a burning rock. "Yes," Lisa agreed. "But we're not going to let that happen. Jake, I'm giving you a direct order. Take the Liberty and engage the enemy fleet." "Ma'am?" Jake looked confused. "The Liberty is a good ship, but against 12 alien dreadnoughts? We'd be outgunned and outnumbered." "I know how it looks," Lisa said. "But the Liberty isn't just any ship. You know the classified specifications better than anyone. Dr. Stevens and his team built something special." Jake nodded slowly. Dr. Richard Stevens had been the chief designer of the Liberty's experimental systems. Much of the ship's technology was still classified, even for most of the crew. Jake knew some of the details, but not all of them. "Admiral, even with our new tech, the odds are not good," Jake said honestly. "The odds were never good for humanity," Lisa replied. "But we've always found a way to survive. This time won't be different." Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. What about evacuation? If we fail, the aliens will attack Earth. "Evacuation ships are already being prepared," Colonel Barnes said. "But there's nowhere to run, Captain. These aliens control most of the galaxy. If we can't stop them here, They'll hunt down any survivors. I understand, Jake said. He straightened up, and Lisa could see the determination in his eyes. The Liberty will engage the enemy fleet. We'll buy Earth as much time as we can. Jake, Lisa said softly. Come home safe. Yes, ma'am. Liberty out. The screen went dark. Lisa stood alone with her thoughts for a moment, then turned to her staff. Send word to all Earth Defense Force units, she ordered. Full alert status. Begin evacuation procedures for major population centers, but keep it quiet. We don't want to cause panic. As her officers hurried to carry out orders, Lisa walked to the large window that looked out over the Rocky Mountains. Somewhere up there, beyond the blue sky, alien ships were waiting to destroy everything humanity had ever built. The Liberty was a good ship with a brave crew, but it was just one vessel against 12. The aliens probably thought it was funny that Earth was sending a single ship to fight their entire fleet. They didn't know about the Liberty's secret weapons, but even those might not be enough. Lisa thought about her daughter Sarah, who was studying medicine at Stanford University. She thought about her grandson Tommy, who was only 5 years old and loved to build toy spaceships. What kind of future would they have if the Liberty failed? No, she said out loud. We won't fail. We can't fail. The next 72 hours would determine the fate of humanity. Everything depended on Captain Morrison and the crew of the Liberty. Lisa had faith in them, but faith alone wouldn't stop alien warships. She turned away from the window and walked back to the command center. There was work to do. If humanity was going to die, they would at least die fighting. Outside, the sun was setting over the mountains. Soon, those same mountains might be nothing but radioactive ash. But not if Jake Morrison had anything to say about it. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the main hangar bay of the U.S. Liberty, looking at the faces of his crew. 400 men and women had gathered to hear what might be their final briefing. The hangar was completely silent except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. I won't lie to you, Jake began. What we're about to do seems impossible. 12 alien warships are waiting for us near Jupiter. Each one is bigger than anything humanity has ever built. Intelligence says they have weapons that could destroy entire cities with a single shot. He paused, looking around the room. These were good people. Engineers, pilots, gunners, medical staff, technicians. Most of them were young, in their 20s and 30s. They had joined Earth Defense Force to protect their home, and now they were being asked to die for it. But, Jake continued, we have something they don't expect. This ship was built with technology that even I don't fully understand. Dr. Stevens and his team spent 10 years designing the Liberty systems. We're not just another warship. We're something new. Commander Amy Rodriguez stepped forward from the crowd. She was Jake's tactical officer, a small woman with fierce dark eyes and 15 years of military experience. Captain, what are our orders? Simple, Jake said. We engage the enemy fleet and destroy them. A murmur went through the crowd. Someone in the back called out, All 12 ships, sir? All 12, Jake confirmed. I know it sounds crazy, but look around you. This ship is full of technology that didn't exist 5 years ago. Our quantum tunnel drives let us move faster than anything in space. Our fusion cascade reactors produce more power than the old space stations. And our weapons. He smiled grimly. Well, you'll see what our weapons can do. Lieutenant Commander Ben Clark raised his hand. Ben was the chief engineer, a tall man with red hair and a reputation for working miracles with machinery. Captain, even with our new tech, the energy requirements for sustained combat against that many targets will push our systems to the limit. Then we'll have to work fast, Jake replied. Amy, what's our tactical situation? Amy activated a holographic display in the center of the hangar. It showed the solar system with 12 red dots positioned near Jupiter. The enemy fleet is spread out in a loose formation. Long-range scans show they're not even maintaining defensive positions. They think we're no threat. That's good for us, said Dr. Helen Morris, the ship's science officer. She was a quiet woman in her 40s with gray hair and thick glasses. If they're overconfident, we can use that against them. Jake nodded. Helen, What do we know about their ships? Based on sensor readings, they use plasma-based shields and particle beam weapons, Helen answered. Their hulls appear to be made of some kind of crystalline metal composite. Very advanced, but we think our new weapons can penetrate it. You think? Someone asked. We'll find out, Jake said simply. Any other questions? A young ensign near the front raised her hand. Sir, what about our families? If we fail. Jake's expression softened. Evacuation procedures are already starting on Earth. But honestly, there's nowhere to run. These aliens control most of the galaxy. If we don't stop them here, they'll hunt down any survivors eventually. Our families are counting on us to end this threat right here, right now. The hangar fell silent again. Jake could see the fear in their faces, but also determination. These people understood what was at stake. Dismissed, Jake said. All hands to battle stations in 30 minutes. As the crew filed out, Jake noticed Commander Rodriguez lingering behind. When they were alone, she approached him. Jake, she said quietly, do you really think we can win this? Jake looked at her for a long moment. Amy had been his friend for years, even before they served together. She deserved an honest answer. I don't know, he admitted, but I know we have to try. And I know this ship is capable of things that would surprise people. 20 minutes later, Jake was on the bridge when Lieutenant Parker at the communication station called out, Captain, we're receiving multiple transmissions from the alien fleet. Put them through, Jake ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing several different alien faces. Jake recognized Ambassador Kextal from the ultimatum message, but there were others as well. A creature that looked like a giant insect, and something that appeared to be made of living rock. So, Kextal said, its scales shifting to what Jake assumed was an amused color. The humans send their pathetic little ship to face us. How entertaining. The insect-like alien clicked its mandibles. I am War Commander Theklis of the Kethmori Swarm. Your vessel is smaller than our shuttlecraft. Do you surrender? I am Admiral Vorthak of the Stone Hegemony, rumbled the rock creature. Its voice was like grinding boulders. Human captain, your courage is admirable but foolish. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Jake stood up from his command chair and walked closer to the screen. This is Captain Morrison of the UES Liberty. I appreciate your offers, but I'm afraid I'll have to decline. The aliens looked at each other with what appeared to be confusion. Finally, Kextal spoke again. Captain, perhaps you do not understand the situation. We have 12 warships. You have one. Our vessels are each 10 times larger than yours. This is not a battle. It is an execution. Maybe, Jake said calmly. But before any execution, I'd like to request permission to demonstrate human engineering capabilities. Consider it our final act as a free species. The aliens conferred among themselves for a moment. Jake could hear them laughing. Finally, Vorthak spoke. Very well, human. Show us this engineering of yours. We grant you permission to entertain us before you die. Thank you, Jake said politely. Liberty out. The screen went dark. Jake turned to his crew on the bridge. Amy, are weapons ready? All systems charged and ready, Captain, Amy replied. Ben, how are our reactors? Running at optimal efficiency, Ben called from his engineering station. All power systems are green. Helen, what about our special equipment? Dr. Morris checked her displays. Quantum scramblers are online. Exotic matter containment is stable. All experimental systems are ready for combat testing. Jake nodded and sat back down in his command chair. Then let's show these aliens what human engineering can really do. Set course for the enemy fleet, maximum speed. The Liberty turned toward Jupiter and accelerated. In a few hours, they would engage 12 alien warships in what seemed like a hopeless battle. But Jake Morrison was beginning to think that maybe, just maybe, the aliens were in for a very unpleasant surprise. The Liberty moved through space like a silver arrow, its hull gleaming under the distant light of the sun. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching Jupiter grow larger on the main screen. Somewhere near that giant planet, 12 alien warships waited for them. Range to target fleet. 4 million kilometers and closing, announced Lieutenant Parker from the sensor station. Enemy vessels are maintaining their loose formation. They still don't appear to be taking any defensive measures. Jake nodded. The aliens were so confident that they weren't even bothering to position their ships properly for battle. It was like watching a pack of lions ignore a single mouse walking toward them. "Captain," called Commander Amy Rodriguez from her tactical station, "I'm reading massive energy signatures from those ships. Each one has enough firepower to glass a continent. What about their defenses?" Jake asked. Dr. Helen Morris looked up from her science console. "Their shields are incredibly powerful, Captain. Plasma-based energy barriers that could probably stop anything we've used before. Their armor appears to be some kind of crystalline composite that's stronger than diamond." "Good thing we're not using anything we've used before," Jake said quietly. Lieutenant Commander Ben Clark's voice came over the intercom from engineering. "Captain, all systems are running perfectly. The exotic matter containment field is stable, and our new reactors are producing more power than we've ever generated before." Jake walked over to Amy's station and looked at the tactical display. 12 red dots arranged in a scattered pattern around Jupiter. Each represented a ship that was larger and more heavily armed than anything humanity had ever built. Any sane person would turn around and run. "Amy, what's our best approach vector?" he asked. Amy studied her displays for a moment. "If we come in from the sunward side, we can use Jupiter's gravity to increase our speed. The enemy formation is spread out enough that we should be able to engage them 1 or 2 at a time instead of fighting all 12 simultaneously." "Sounds like a plan," Jake said. "Helm, adjust course as directed." "Aye, sir," replied Ensign Carol White at the helm station. As the Liberty changed course, Jake thought about the crew. 400 people who had volunteered to risk everything for their homeworld. He had read their files during the approach. Amy Rodriguez had grown up in Texas and joined the military to pay for college. Ben Clark was from Ohio and had 3 kids back on Earth. Helen Morris had been a university professor before the war, and she still had students who looked up to her. All of them knew they probably wouldn't survive the next few hours. But none of them had asked to transfer off the ship when they learned about the mission. "Captain," Lieutenant Parker said, "we're receiving another transmission from the enemy fleet." "Put it through," Jake ordered. The main screen showed Admiral Vorthak, the stone-like alien who commanded the hegemony ships. His rocky features were set in what might have been amusement. "Human Captain," Vorthak rumbled, "you approach with admirable determination. But surely you must realize that your small vessel cannot harm our mighty ships. Even your largest nuclear weapons would barely scratch our armor." Jake stepped forward. "Admiral, with respect, I think you might be underestimating human creativity." "Creativity?" Vorthak laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Captain, we have conquered 17 star systems. We have destroyed entire fleets with weapons you cannot imagine. What creativity could possibly threaten us?" "The kind that comes from having our backs against the wall," Jake replied. "We humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. And right now we're very necessary." Ambassador Kexdal's face appeared on a split screen. "Captain Morrison, you speak bravely for someone about to die. But courage will not protect your ship from our weapons." "Maybe not," Jake admitted. "But it might be enough to show you something you've never seen before." War Commander Theklis of the Keth-Mori swarm clicked its mandibles impatiently. "Enough talk. Human, you have approached close enough to demonstrate your engineering. Show us what your pathetic technology can do, then die with honor." Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. Amy was checking her weapon systems one final time. Helen was running last-minute calibrations on their experimental equipment. At the helm, Ensign White was adjusting their approach to give them the best possible angle of attack. "Very well," Jake said to the aliens. "But I should warn you that human engineering can be full of surprises." He made a cutting motion to Lieutenant Parker, who closed the communication channel. The main screen returned to showing the enemy fleet, now much closer. Jake could see the individual ships clearly now, massive vessels that looked like they had been carved from exotic metals and crystals. "Amy, Target the lead hegemony vessel, Jake ordered. Helen, are our special systems ready? All exotic matter systems are online, Helen confirmed. Quantum tunnel targeting is locked and ready. Ben, how much power can you give us? Jake asked over the intercom. Everything we've got, Captain, Ben replied. The new reactors are running at full capacity. We've got enough energy to power a small city. Jake sat down in his command chair and took a deep breath. In a few minutes, they would find out if all the secret research and experimental technology was worth anything. The Liberty was about to go into battle against impossible odds, carrying weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Range to target fleet, 500,000 kilometers, announced Lieutenant Parker. Enemy vessels are powering up their weapons, Amy reported. I think they're planning to give us a demonstration of their own. Jake nodded. The aliens wanted to show off their superior firepower before finishing the Liberty off. They thought it would be amusing to let the humans see how outclassed they were. Let them fire first, Jake said. I want to see what their weapons can do. Captain? Amy sounded surprised. Trust me, Jake said. Our shields can handle whatever they throw at us. And I want them to feel confident right up until the moment we start shooting back. The Liberty continued its approach toward the alien fleet. Jupiter loomed huge in the background, its swirling storms providing a dramatic backdrop for what was about to happen. In a few minutes, the most uneven battle in human history would begin. Jake thought about his sister Katie back on Earth. She was probably watching the news, knowing that her brother was out here facing impossible odds. He hoped she would understand that some things were worth dying for. Range to target fleet, 100,000 kilometers, Parker announced. Enemy lead ship is targeting us, Amy reported. They're charging some kind of massive particle beam weapon. Jake gripped the arms of his command chair. All hands, this is the captain. Battle stations. Prepare for combat. Throughout the ship, alarm bells rang as the crew prepared for what might be their final fight. But Jake Morrison was no longer thinking about death. He was thinking about victory. The first alien weapon fired with a flash of brilliant blue light that could have been seen from Mars. The particle beam streaked across space toward the Liberty, carrying enough energy to vaporize a mountain. Incoming fire, shouted Commander Amy Rodriguez from her tactical station. Impact in 15 seconds. Captain Jake Morrison gripped his command chair as warning alarms blared throughout the ship. On the main screen, he could see the deadly beam racing toward them like a lance of pure energy. All hands, brace for impact, Jake announced over the ship-wide intercom. The particle beam struck the Liberty's shields with tremendous force. The entire ship shook as exotic energy cascaded over their defensive barriers. Lights flickered on the bridge as power systems strained under the assault. But the Liberty did not explode. The ship did not break apart or burst into flames. Instead, something remarkable happened. Captain. Dr. Helen Morris called out from her science station, excitement clear in her voice. The quantum tunnel shields are working perfectly. They're not just stopping the energy, they're absorbing it. Jake felt a surge of satisfaction. Dr. Stevens and his team had spent years developing the new shield technology. Instead of simply blocking enemy fire, the quantum tunnel shields could actually capture incoming energy and redirect it into the ship's power systems. Then, Jake called to engineering over the intercom. How are our power levels? Incredible, Captain, came Ben Clark's excited voice. That alien weapon just gave us a 20% boost to our reactor output. We're running hotter than we've ever run before. On the main screen, Jake could see the alien fleet. For a moment, there was no response from the enemy ships. Then the communication channels exploded with confused chatter. Impossible. War Commander Theklis of the Keth Mori was clicking his mandibles rapidly. How did that small ship survive a direct hit from a hegemony destructor beam? Admiral Vorthak's voice rumbled with confusion. Our sensors show the human vessel is undamaged. How is this possible? Ambassador Kekstal's scales were shifting through multiple colors rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. This makes no sense. That beam should have destroyed their entire ship. Jake stood up from his command chair and walked to the center of the bridge. Amy, Are our weapons charged and ready? All systems green, Captain, Amy replied. The energy from their attack has actually boosted our weapon power by 15%. Excellent, Jake said. Target the ship that just fired at us. Let's show them what human engineering can really do. Amy's fingers danced over her control panel. Target locked. All weapon systems ready to fire. Helen, what about our special munitions? Jake asked. Dr. Morris checked her displays. Exotic matter projectiles are loaded and ready. Quantum tunnel guidance systems are online. We have a clear firing solution. Jake took a deep breath. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. The Liberty was about to fire the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created. Fire, he ordered quietly. Excellent, Jake said. Target the ship that just fired at us. Let's show them what human engineering can really do. Amy's fingers danced over her control panel. Target locked. All weapon systems ready to fire. Helen, what about our special munitions? Jake asked. Dr. Morris checked her displays. Exotic matter projectiles are loaded and ready. Quantum tunnel guidance systems are online. We have a clear firing solution. Jake took a deep breath. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. The Liberty was about to fire the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created. Fire, he ordered quietly. What happened next defied everything the aliens thought they knew about human technology. Instead of energy beams or primitive missiles, sleek metallic projectiles emerged from the Liberty's weapon ports. But these were not ordinary kinetic rounds. Each projectile was surrounded by a field of exotic matter that allowed it to tunnel through space-time itself. As they accelerated toward their target, the rounds approached a significant fraction of the speed of light. They moved so fast that the alien ship's sensors couldn't track them properly. Impact in 3 seconds, Amy announced. The hegemony vessel tried to raise its shields, but it was too late. The exotic matter projectiles punched through the alien ship's plasma barriers as if they didn't exist. The crystalline armor that had protected the ship from countless battles offered no resistance at all. The first round struck the hegemony vessel near its command section. The exotic matter containment field collapsed on impact, releasing enormous amounts of energy directly inside the enemy ship. The second round hit the engineering section, causing a cascade failure in the aliens' power systems. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the massive enemy vessel began to break apart from the inside. Explosions rippled along its 2-kilometer length as internal systems overloaded and failed. Within 30 seconds, the mighty hegemony dreadnought was nothing but expanding debris. The bridge of the Liberty erupted in cheers. Ensign Carol White at the helm pumped her fist in the air. Lieutenant Parker was grinning widely as he monitored communications. Even Dr. Morris, usually reserved and professional, was smiling with satisfaction. 1 down, 11 to go. Amy called out, her voice filled with fierce joy. Jake felt a surge of pride in his crew and his ship. The Liberty had just done the impossible, destroyed an alien dreadnought with a single salvo. But he knew the real battle was just beginning. Don't celebrate yet, he warned. The aliens know we're a threat now. They won't underestimate us anymore. As if to prove his point, the communication channels filled with alien voices, all talking at once in various languages. The translation system struggled to keep up. How did they destroy the Granite Mountain? Admiral Vorthak was demanding. Those projectiles moved faster than our sensors could track. Kextal was reporting to someone off-screen. All ships, emergency formation. War Commander Theklis was ordering. That human vessel is more dangerous than we thought. Jake watched as the remaining 11 alien ships began to move into a defensive formation. They were no longer treating the Liberty as an amusing target. Now they saw the human ship as a real threat that needed to be eliminated quickly. Amy, how long to reload our main weapons? Jake asked. 30 seconds for a full reload, Amy replied. But Captain, I can fire a reduced salvo in 15 seconds. Do it, Jake ordered. Target the nearest Kethmori vessel. Helen, Jake called to the science station, deploy our quantum scramblers. Let's see if we can mess with their targeting systems. Scramblers deployed, Helen confirmed. I'm reading interference in their sensor networks. They're having trouble getting target locks on us. The Liberty's second salvo fired just as the alien fleet completed its formation change. 3 exotic matter projectiles streaked toward a Kethmori swarm ship, a vessel that looked like a giant mechanical insect with dozens of weapon ports along its hull. This time, the aliens were ready. The Kethmori vessel deployed multiple layers of shielding and began evasive maneuvers. But the Liberty's weapons were too fast and too accurate. 2 of the 3 rounds found their target, punching through the alien ship's defenses and causing massive internal explosions. The Kethmori vessel didn't break apart as dramatically as the hegemony ship had, but it was clearly disabled. Fires burned along its hull, and it was venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. 2 ships down, Amy reported with grim satisfaction. Jake nodded, but his expression remained serious. The next shots won't be so easy. They know what our weapons can do now. As if responding to his words, the remaining 10 alien ships opened fire simultaneously. The space around the Liberty lit up with energy beams, plasma bolts, and exotic weapons that Jake couldn't even identify. Incoming fire from multiple targets. Amy shouted over the noise of alarms. This is going to be a big one. Jake sat back down in his command chair and prepared for the real battle to begin. 10 alien warships fired at once, turning the space around Jupiter into a deadly light show. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and exotic weapons streaked toward the Liberty from every direction. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. Multiple incoming weapons. Commander Amy Rodriguez shouted over the blaring alarms. Impact in 8 seconds. Captain Jake Morrison watched the deadly light show approaching his ship. Any normal vessel would be vaporized instantly by such concentrated firepower. But the Liberty was far from normal. All hands, brace for multiple impacts, Jake announced shipwide. The first wave of alien weapons struck the Liberty's quantum tunnel shields with tremendous force. The ship shook violently as exotic energies cascaded over the defensive barriers. But instead of breaking through, something extraordinary happened. Captain, Dr. Helen Morris called out from her science station, her voice filled with amazement. The shields are holding. Not only that, they're absorbing energy from every hit. The quantum tunnel shields worked by creating small tears in space-time that redirected incoming energy into parallel dimensions, then channeled it back into the ship's power systems. The more the aliens fired, the stronger the Liberty became. Ben, Jake called to engineering over the intercom. Power levels. Off the charts, Captain. Lieutenant Commander Ben Clark's excited voice came back. We're running at 150% of normal capacity. These reactors are handling the load like they were designed for it. The alien bombardment continued for 30 seconds, wave after wave of devastating weapons fire. When it finally stopped, the Liberty was not only intact but actually stronger than before. The communication channels filled with confused alien voices. Jake could hear the panic in their words even through the translation systems. Impossible. Ambassador Kextel was practically screaming. Nothing could survive that bombardment. Their ship should be space dust. War Commander Theklis clicked his mandibles frantically. How are they still functional? Admiral Vorthak's voice rumbled with something that might have been fear. What kind of technology are we facing? Jake stood up and walked to Amy's tactical station. How are our weapons? Fully charged and ready, Captain, Amy replied with a fierce grin. That bombardment gave us enough power to fire a full barrage at maximum strength. Outstanding, Jake said. Target the 3 nearest ships. Let's show them what happens when you feed energy to a hungry human warship. Amy's fingers flew over her controls. Multiple targets locked. All weapon systems ready to fire. Helen, status on our special systems? Jake asked. Quantum scramblers are causing major interference in their sensor networks, Dr. Morris reported. Their targeting accuracy is down by at least 40%. And, Captain, I'm reading something interesting about their shield frequencies. What do you mean? Their plasma shields operate on rotating frequencies to prevent enemy weapons from adapting, Helen explained. But our exotic matter projectiles don't care about shield frequencies. We can punch through their defenses regardless of their settings. Jake nodded. This was exactly what Dr. Stevens had hoped for when he designed the Liberty's weapons. Amy, fire at will. The Liberty unleashed its most devastating barrage yet. 9 exotic matter projectiles launched simultaneously from the ship's main weapons, each one targeted at a different enemy vessel. The rounds accelerated to incredible speeds, their quantum guidance systems ensuring perfect accuracy. The aliens tried to evade, but their massive ships were too slow and unwieldy. The first projectile struck a Zephyrian cruiser in its central power core. The ship's entire midsection exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The second round hit another hegemony vessel near its weapon arrays. Internal explosions rippled along the ship's hull as its own ammunition detonated in a chain reaction. The third projectile found its target in a Kethmori swarm ship. The exotic matter release tore through the vessel's insectoid hull like it was made of paper. Within minutes, 3 more alien ships were destroyed or crippled beyond repair. The mighty fleet that had come to destroy humanity was being systematically torn apart by a single human vessel. 5 ships down, Amy reported, her voice filled with fierce satisfaction. Enemy formation is breaking apart. Jake could see the chaos spreading through the alien fleet. Ships that had been confident and organized just minutes ago were now scattered and desperate. Some were trying to retreat, others were firing wildly in all directions. Captain, Lieutenant Parker called from the communication station. I'm intercepting multiple distress calls from the enemy fleet. They're calling for reinforcements. Any response? Jake asked. Negative, sir. Looks like this fleet is on its own. Jake felt a surge of hope. The aliens had expected an easy victory, so they hadn't brought backup. Now they were learning what happened when you underestimated human determination and ingenuity. Amy, what's our next target? He asked. I recommend the command ship, Amy replied, pointing to a massive Zephyrian vessel in the center of the enemy formation. If we take out their flagship, it might break their coordination completely. Do it, Jake ordered. But as Amy prepared to fire, the alien fleet made a desperate move. The remaining 7 ships suddenly accelerated toward the Liberty, trying to close distance for point-blank combat. They're charging us, Ensign Carol White called from the helm. All remaining ships are on an intercept course. Jake realized what the aliens were thinking. At close range, the Liberty's superior maneuverability wouldn't matter as much. They were probably hoping to ram the human ship or at least get close enough that their superior numbers would count for something. Amy, fire on the lead ship, Jake ordered. Helen, give me maximum power to engines. Firing, Amy announced. Another exotic matter projectile streaked toward the charging aliens. It struck the lead Kethmori vessel head-on, causing massive explosions that sent debris spinning in all directions. Direct hit. Enemy vessel destroyed, Amy reported. But the other ships kept coming. Jake could see them growing larger on the main screen as they closed the distance. In a few minutes, the battle would become a close-range brawl. Ben, Jake called to engineering, how much power can you give us for evasive maneuvers? All you need, Captain, Ben replied. These fusion cascade reactors are running perfectly. Jake sat back down in his command chair and prepared for the most dangerous part of the battle. The aliens were desperate now, and desperate enemies were always the most dangerous. All hands, he announced over the ship-wide intercom. Prepare for close combat maneuvering. Things are about to get interesting. On the main screen, 6 alien warships bore down on the Liberty like ancient sea monsters attacking a small boat. But Jake Morrison was no longer thinking about the odds. He was thinking about how to use the Liberty's advantages to turn this desperate charge into the aliens' final mistake. Jake could see the chaos spreading through the alien fleet. Ships that had been confident and organized just minutes ago were now scattered and desperate. Some were trying to retreat, others were firing wildly in all directions. Captain, Lieutenant Parker called from the communication station. I'm intercepting multiple distress calls from the enemy fleet. They're calling for reinforcements. Any response? Jake asked. Negative, sir. Looks like this fleet is on its own. Jake felt a surge of hope. The aliens had expected an easy victory, so they hadn't brought backup. Now they were learning what happened when you underestimated human determination and ingenuity. Amy, what's our next target? He asked. I recommend the command ship, Amy replied, pointing to a massive Zephyrian vessel in the center of the enemy formation. If we take out their flagship, it might break their coordination completely. Do it, Jake ordered. But as Amy prepared to fire, the alien fleet made a desperate move. The remaining 7 ships suddenly accelerated toward the Liberty, trying to close distance for point-blank combat. They're charging us, Ensign Carol White called from the helm. All remaining ships are on an intercept course. Jake realized what the aliens were thinking. At close range, the Liberty's superior maneuverability wouldn't matter as much. They were probably hoping to ram the human ship or at least get close enough that their superior numbers would count for something. Amy, fire on the lead ship, Jake ordered. Helen, give me maximum power to engines. Firing, Amy announced. Another exotic matter projectile streaked toward the charging aliens. It struck the lead Kethmori vessel head-on, causing massive explosions that sent debris spinning in all directions. Direct hit. Enemy vessel destroyed, Amy reported. But the other ships kept coming. Jake could see them growing larger on the main screen as they closed the distance. In a few minutes, the battle would become a close-range brawl. Ben, Jake called to engineering, how much power can you give us for evasive maneuvers? All you need, Captain, Ben replied. These fusion cascade reactors are running perfectly. Jake sat back down in his command chair and prepared for the most dangerous part of the battle. The aliens were desperate now, and desperate enemies were always the most dangerous. All hands, he announced over the ship-wide intercom. Prepare for close combat maneuvering. Things are about to get interesting. On the main screen, 6 alien warships bore down on the Liberty like ancient sea monsters attacking a small boat. But Jake Morrison was no longer thinking about the odds. He was thinking about how to use the Liberty's advantages to turn this desperate charge into the aliens' final mistake. 6 massive alien warships charged toward the Liberty like ancient warships trying to ram a small boat. Captain Jake Morrison watched them approach on the main screen, his mind racing through tactical possibilities. Distance to enemy formation, 50,000 kilometers and closing fast, announced Lieutenant Parker from the sensor station. Captain, Commander Amy Rodriguez said urgently, at this range, they'll be able to bring all their weapons to bear simultaneously. We need to break up their formation. Jake nodded. The aliens were trying to use their superior numbers to overwhelm the Liberty in close combat. But they had made a critical mistake. They were thinking like commanders of massive, slow dreadnoughts. Jake had learned to fight in smaller, faster ships. Carol, he called to Ensign White at the helm, how responsive are our engines? Very responsive, sir, Carol replied. The new quantum tunnel drives can change our vector almost instantly. Good. Amy, target the lead ship with everything we have. Helen, I need you to map Jupiter's gravity field. Dr. Helen Morris looked up from her science station with confusion. Captain, Jupiter's gravity field? What do you need that for? You'll see, Jake said with a slight smile. Trust me. The charging alien ships were now close enough that Jake could see individual weapon ports and hull details. The lead vessel was a hegemony ship, a massive stone-like dreadnought that looked like it could punch through an asteroid. Firing on lead target, Amy announced. The Liberty's exotic matter projectiles streaked toward the charging hegemony vessel. But this time, the aliens were ready. The enemy ship rolled to present its thickest armor, and additional shield layers flickered to life around its hull. The human weapon struck home, but the damage was less than before. The hegemony ship's hull cracked and atmosphere vented from several breaches, but the vessel remained functional. Minimal damage to target, Amy reported with frustration. Their armor is thicker than we thought. That's okay, Jake said calmly. We're not trying to destroy them yet. Carol, execute maneuver pattern Alpha 7. Aye, sir. The Liberty suddenly veered hard to port, its quantum tunnel drives allowing impossibly sharp turns that would have torn apart any normal ship. The alien formation, which had been charging in a straight line, couldn't adjust quickly enough to follow. What is the human ship doing? War Commander Thecles demanded over the communication channel. Why are they running toward Jupiter? Jake wasn't running, he was positioning. As the Liberty raced toward the giant planet, he studied the tactical display. The alien ships were strung out in a long line, trying to pursue him. They had broken their tight formation, which was exactly what he wanted. Helen, give me a gravity slingshot calculation, Jake ordered. I want to use Jupiter's gravity well to accelerate past the enemy formation. Calculating now, Helen replied, her fingers dancing over her console. Captain, if we approach at the right angle, we can use Jupiter's gravity to increase our speed by 30%. Perfect. Carol, adjust course as Dr. Morris directs. The Liberty swung around Jupiter's massive bulk, using the planet's gravity to accelerate like a stone from a slingshot. The alien ships tried to follow, but their massive size worked against them. They couldn't make the sharp turns needed to match the Liberty's maneuvers. Enemy formation is spreading out, Amy reported. They're having trouble maintaining coordination. Excellent, Jake said. Now we fight them one at a time instead of all at once. Amy, target the trailing ship. As the Liberty came around Jupiter's far side, it found itself behind the scattered alien formation. The rearmost ship, a Cathmori vessel, was isolated from its companions and vulnerable. Target locked, Amy announced. Firing. This time, the exotic matter projectiles found their mark without interference. The Cathmori ship broke apart in a cascade of explosions, its insectoid hull splitting along stress lines. 7 ships down. Amy called out with satisfaction. But the remaining aliens were adapting to the Liberty's tactics. Instead of trying to chase the human ship, they were spreading out to cut off escape routes. Captain, Lieutenant Parker warned, the enemy ships are repositioning to surround us. Jake studied the tactical display. 5 alien vessels were moving to create a sphere around the Liberty's position. It was a classic encirclement maneuver, and if it succeeded, the human ship would be trapped. Helen, Jake said, I need you to deploy the quantum scramblers at maximum power. Can you disrupt their coordination systems? I can try, Helen replied. But at maximum power, the scramblers will interfere with our own sensors too. Do it anyway. Amy, prepare for rapid-fire engagement. We're going to hit them while they're blind. Dr. Morris activated the quantum scramblers, filling space around Jupiter with electromagnetic interference. The alien ships suddenly found their sensors clouded and their communication systems disrupted. Enemy coordination is breaking down, Parker reported. I'm reading multiple collision warnings between their ships. This was Jake's chance. Carol, take us straight at the nearest ship, maximum speed. Amy, fire as soon as we're in range. The Liberty shot forward like an arrow, its quantum tunnel drives pushing it to incredible velocity. The targeted alien ship, a Zephyrian cruiser, didn't see the attack coming until it was too late. Amy's weapons fired at point-blank range, sending exotic matter projectiles directly into the enemy vessel's command section. The cruiser exploded spectacularly, sending debris in all directions. 8 down, Amy shouted. But the victory came at a cost. The explosion was so close that shrapnel peppered the Liberty's hull. Warning lights flickered across the bridge as damage reports came in. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7, reported Lieutenant Commander Ben Clark from Engineering. Emergency force fields are holding, but we can't take many more hits like that. Jake realized that the close-range tactics were too dangerous. The Liberty was fast and maneuverable, but it was still just one ship against 4 massive aliens vessels. He needed a different approach. Helen, how much exotic matter do we have left for our weapons? He asked. Enough for 12 more shots at full power, Helen replied. And our regular kinetic weapons? Fully loaded and ready, Amy added. Jake had an idea. The alien ships were designed to fight other large vessels in long-range engagements. They probably weren't prepared for a small, fast opponent that used multiple weapon types simultaneously. Amy, I want you to alternate between exotic matter projectiles and kinetic rounds, he ordered. Vary the timing and targeting patterns. Make it impossible for them to predict our next move. Understood, Captain. The Liberty began a deadly dance around the remaining 4 alien ships. Jake used every trick he had learned in 20 years of military service. He feinted toward one ship, then struck another. He used Jupiter's moons as cover, popping out to fire quick bursts before disappearing again. The aliens, designed for massive fleet engagements, couldn't adapt to this kind of guerrilla warfare. Their huge ships were too slow to track the Liberty's rapid movements, and their powerful weapons were designed for long-range combat, not close-in fighting. One by one, the remaining alien vessels fell to the Liberty's unconventional tactics. A hegemony ship tried to ram the human vessel, only to be crippled by kinetic rounds that targeted its engines. A Zephyrian cruiser attempted to trap the Liberty between itself and Jupiter's gravity well, but Jake used the planet's magnetic field to disrupt the alien sensors before destroying it with exotic matter projectiles. When the battle finally ended, the Liberty floated alone among the debris of 12 alien warships. The supposedly inferior human vessel had destroyed an entire Galactic Council enforcement fleet using nothing but superior tactics and advanced technology. Jake looked around his bridge at his exhausted but triumphant crew. They had done the impossible. Now it was time to make sure the galaxy knew what had happened here. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty, watching the last Zephyrian cruiser break apart in a brilliant explosion. Debris from 12 alien warships now drifted in the space around Jupiter, glittering in the distant sunlight like deadly stars. All enemy vessels destroyed, Commander Amy Rodriguez reported, her voice filled with exhausted triumph. No remaining threats detected. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him. They had done it. Against impossible odds, the Liberty had destroyed an entire alien fleet. But as he studied the tactical display, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. "Wait," he said sharply. "Amy, scan for escape pods and life signs." Amy's fingers flew over her controls. After a moment, her expression changed. "Captain, I'm reading multiple escape pods and emergency beacons. It looks like hundreds of aliens survived the destruction of their ships." Jake's mind raced. Survivors meant witnesses. More importantly, it meant that the aliens might call for reinforcements or warn other fleets about the Liberty's capabilities. "Lieutenant Parker," Jake called to the communication station, "are you detecting any outgoing transmissions from the escape pods?" "Yes, sir," Parker replied grimly. "Multiple quantum burst transmissions heading out of the solar system. The survivors are reporting what happened here." Dr. Helen Morris looked up from her science station. "Captain, based on the transmission vectors, they're sending messages to at least 6 different star systems. If there are other Galactic Council fleets out there." She didn't need to finish the thought. Jake understood perfectly. The Liberty had won this battle, but word of their victory would spread throughout the galaxy. Other alien fleets might come seeking revenge, or the Council might send even more powerful ships to finish what this fleet had started. "Amy," Jake said quietly, "what's our torpedo inventory?" Amy checked her displays. "We have 18 conventional torpedoes remaining, plus 6 exotic matter warheads." Jake walked to the center of the bridge and studied the main screen. Dozens of alien escape pods drifted among the wreckage, their occupants probably expecting to be rescued by human ships. In normal circumstances, Jake would have ordered immediate rescue operations. It was basic military courtesy to save enemy survivors. But these weren't normal circumstances. Through intercepted communications during the battle, Jake had learned terrible things about the Galactic Council. These aliens hadn't just threatened Earth, they had destroyed 17 other civilizations. Entire species had been wiped out because they refused to surrender their freedom. "Parker," Jake said, "play back some of those intercepted communications from earlier. The ones where they discussed their previous campaigns." Lieutenant Parker activated the recordings. Ambassador Kextal's voice filled the bridge, speaking to one of his subordinates during a lull in the fighting. "The humans fight better than expected," Kextal had said. "But it matters little. When we finish with Earth, we will add their name to our list of conquered worlds. 17 species have learned the price of defying the Council." Another voice, War Commander Theklis, had replied, The humans will make good slaves, like the Andretti and the Kelvin. Those who resist will be eliminated as always. Admiral Vorthak's rumbling voice had added, "The Council's mercy is legendary. We gave the Zirian 3 chances to surrender. When they refused the 3rd time, we burned their homeworld to ash. The humans will learn from their example." Jake felt his jaw clench as he listened to the casual discussion of genocide. These aliens didn't just conquer other species, they eliminated them entirely if they showed too much resistance. "Turn it off," he said quietly. The bridge fell silent. Jake could see the expressions on his crew's faces. They had heard the same recordings he had. They knew what kind of enemy they were facing. "Captain," Amy said carefully, "what are your orders regarding the survivors?" Jake thought about his sister Katie back on Earth. He thought about all the children who would never be born if these aliens succeeded in their mission. He thought about 17 dead civilizations whose only crime had been wanting to remain free. "The Galactic Council has made their position clear," Jake said finally. "They don't believe in showing mercy to species that resist them. They've destroyed 17 civilizations and plan to destroy ours." He paused, looking around at his crew. "These survivors will report our capabilities to other Council fleets. They'll bring reinforcements, bigger ships, more advanced weapons. And if we let them go, they'll eventually come back to finish what they started." Commander Rodriguez understood immediately. "Sir, are you ordering us to?" "I'm ordering us to make sure this threat to Earth is completely eliminated," Jake said firmly. "Amy, target all escape pods and emergency beacons. Use conventional torpedoes." The bridge was quiet for a moment. Jake could see the conflict in his crew's faces. They were good people who didn't like the idea of killing helpless survivors. But they also understood what was at stake. "Captain," Dr. Morris said softly, "this isn't like us. Humans don't usually face extinction either," Jake replied. "These aliens have proven they don't honor surrender. They've shown no mercy to any species they've conquered. Why should we show them mercy they would never show us?" Amy's voice was steady when she spoke. "Torpedoes targeted and ready, Captain." Jake took a deep breath. This wasn't a decision he made lightly, but it was the right decision for humanity's survival. Fire. 18 conventional torpedoes launched from the Liberty's weapon tubes. They spread out across the debris field, each one targeting a cluster of escape pods. The explosions were quick and efficient. Within minutes, all traces of alien survivors had been eliminated. "All targets destroyed," Amy reported quietly. Jake nodded. "Parker, send a message to Earth Defense Command. Tell them the alien fleet has been completely destroyed with no survivors. Also send them our tactical data on alien ship capabilities and weaknesses." "Aye, sir," Parker replied. As the Liberty began its journey back toward Earth, Jake composed a message for the wider galaxy. He had Parker broadcast it on all known alien communication frequencies. "This is Captain Morrison of the United Earth Ship Liberty," he began. "Today, a Galactic Council enforcement fleet came to our solar system demanding humanity's surrender. They threatened to destroy our civilization if we refused to submit to their authority." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "That fleet has been completely destroyed. Every ship, every crew member, every trace of their existence has been eliminated. The same fate awaits any other force that threatens Earth or humanity." Jake's voice grew stronger as he continued. "We know about the 17 civilizations you've destroyed. We know about your policy of genocide against species that resist your rule. But humanity is not like those other species. We don't surrender, and we don't forgive attacks on our home." He looked directly into the camera. "The Galactic Council has a choice. Leave humanity alone, and we'll leave you alone. But if you send more fleets against Earth, we'll do more than just defend ourselves. We'll come for you." The message ended, and Jake ordered it transmitted throughout the galaxy. Within hours, every major alien civilization would know that humanity had destroyed an entire council fleet and was prepared to fight anyone who threatened them. As the Liberty headed home, Jake thought about the future. The aliens would probably try again, but next time they would be more cautious. They would bring bigger fleets and more advanced weapons. But they would also be afraid. For the first time in their history, the Galactic Council had met a species that could not only resist them but defeat them completely. The age of easy conquest was over. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. Now the real test would begin. 3 days after the battle near Jupiter, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his quarters aboard the Liberty, watching news reports from across the galaxy. The ship was halfway back to Earth, but the effects of their victory were already spreading through space faster than any ship could travel. The quantum communication networks that connected alien civilizations were buzzing with reports of the impossible. A single human warship had destroyed an entire Galactic Council enforcement fleet. The species that the Council had dismissed as primitive had just demonstrated military technology that surpassed anything in known space. "Captain," came Commander Amy Rodriguez's voice over the intercom, "you need to see this. We're receiving multiple incoming transmissions from alien governments." Jake made his way to the bridge, where Lieutenant Parker was managing a dozen different communication channels. The main screen showed a list of incoming messages from star systems across the galaxy. "What am I looking at?" Jake asked. "Diplomatic contact requests, sir," Parker replied. "So far we've received messages from the Andretti Republic, the Kelvin Federation, the free worlds of Tau Ceti, and at least 8 other governments. They all want to establish formal relations with Earth." Dr. Helen Morris looked up from her science station. "Captain, these are some of the civilizations that the Galactic Council conquered years ago. The Andretti and Kelvin were mentioned in those intercepted communications as slave species." Jake nodded. It made sense that conquered peoples would reach out to humanity. They had just seen proof that the Council could be defeated. "Play the message from the Andretti Republic," Jake ordered. The main screen showed an alien that looked somewhat like a large cat with 4 arms and golden fur. Its voice was translated through the universal language processors. "Greetings to the brave humans of Earth," the Andretti said. "I am Prime Minister Kalathek of the Andretti Republic. For 30 years, my people have lived under the iron rule of the Galactic Council. We have seen our culture suppressed, our resources stolen, our young taken as slaves." The alien's expression grew more hopeful. "But today, you have shown us that the Council is not invincible. Your single ship accomplished what our entire fleet could not. We formally request an alliance with Earth. Together, perhaps we can free the galaxy from Council tyranny." Jake felt a surge of pride, but also concern. The Andretti were clearly desperate for help, but Earth wasn't ready for a galactic war. "Parker, what's the situation with the Galactic Council itself?" Jake asked. "That's where it gets interesting, Captain," Parker replied. "We're intercepting massive amounts of Council communication traffic. It sounds like their government is in chaos." "Show me." The screen switched to display intercepted Council transmissions. Jake could see representatives from multiple species arguing frantically in what appeared to be an emergency session. A reptilian alien that Jake recognized as the same species as Ambassador Kextel was speaking urgently. "The human vessel used technology we don't understand. Our most powerful ships were destroyed like toys." Another alien, this one resembling a living crystal formation, replied angrily. "The enforcement fleet was supposed to be invincible. How did primitive humans defeat 12 dreadnoughts?" A third voice, belonging to something that looked like a floating jellyfish, added, "Multiple member worlds are questioning Council authority. The Andretti have declared independence. The Kelvin are mobilizing their hidden fleets. If we don't restore order soon, the entire Council will collapse." Jake exchanged glances with his officers. The alien government that had ruled much of the galaxy for centuries was falling apart because of what the Liberty had accomplished. "Captain," Amy said quietly, "there's something else you should see." The screen switched to show another transmission, this one from a group of aliens that Jake didn't recognize. They appeared to be some kind of energy beings, flickering forms of light and plasma. "Humans of Earth," the energy being said, "we are the transcended collective. We have watched your species from afar and are impressed by your potential. The Galactic Council represents the old way of doing things: conquest, oppression, the strong dominating the weak." The being's form shifted and brightened. You have proven that there is another way. We formally invite Earth to join the coalition of free worlds, an alliance of species dedicated to mutual cooperation and defense against tyranny. Jake realized that humanity had just been invited to join what amounted to a galactic resistance movement. The implications were staggering. "Sir," Dr. Morris said, "I'm reading massive fleet movements throughout Council space. It looks like multiple rebellions are starting simultaneously." Lieutenant Parker nodded. "Confirmed, Captain. The Kelvin Federation has announced they're retaking their home system. The free worlds of Tau Ceti are mobilizing for war. At least 6 other species have declared independence from Council rule." Jake felt the weight of history settling on his shoulders. The Liberty's victory hadn't just saved Earth, it had triggered a galaxy-wide revolution against the Council's oppressive rule. Admiral Lisa Grant's face appeared on a priority communication channel from Earth. "Jake, congratulations on your victory. But we have a situation developing here." "What kind of situation, Admiral?" Jake asked. "Refugee ships," Lisa replied. "Hundreds of them. Alien civilians fleeing Council space and requesting asylum on Earth. They're calling us the liberators of the galaxy." Jake ran a hand through his hair. 3 days ago, humanity had been a single world facing extinction. Now they were apparently the leaders of a galactic freedom movement. "Admiral, what are your orders?" he asked. "Come home, Jake. We need to figure out what we're going to do next. The President is calling an emergency session of the World Council. We need to decide whether humanity is ready to take on the role these aliens are asking us to play." After the communication ended, Jake stood quietly on the bridge of the Liberty. Through the main screen, he could see Earth growing larger as they approached home. But the small blue planet no longer seemed isolated and vulnerable. It was now the center of a growing alliance of free worlds. "Captain," Amy said, "the crew is asking about our next mission. What should I tell them?" Jake thought about the question. The crew of the Liberty had signed up to defend Earth, but they had ended up changing the balance of power in the galaxy. The Galactic Council still existed, but its authority was crumbling. Dozens of species were looking to humanity for leadership in the fight for freedom. "Tell them to rest up," Jake said finally, "because I have a feeling our real work is just beginning." As the Liberty continued toward Earth, Jake reflected on how much had changed in just a few days. Humanity had gone from being dismissed as a primitive species to becoming the hope of oppressed worlds across the galaxy. The aliens had laughed at Earth's lone ship, but that laughter had died with their fleet. Now the galaxy would learn what humans were truly capable of. The age of the Galactic Council was ending, and a new era of freedom was beginning. And it had all started with one ship, one crew, and one captain who refused to surrender. The Liberty headed home, carrying with it the seeds of a new galactic order. Captain Jake Morrison and his crew had not just saved Earth, they had changed the destiny of countless worlds. The galaxy would never be the same again.